mighty. Not because you want to, but you have to. Be bold and no time to be bashful. Grab life by the horns like a natural. Be sharp, be quick, and be agile. Never ever let a competitor catch you. Stay ahead of whatever is trying to pass you. Though it's not a race, sometimes that's how you gotta operate.
Hello everyone, welcome to S Factor Labs. My name is Sam, and I know I'm a bit late to the party, but I figured that I would give my impressions on the new information for Project L, the upcoming League of Legends fighting game from Radiant Entertainment that was acquired by Riot. There have been a lot of reactions and breakdowns of this new information. However, something I've noticed is most of the impressions have come from people already versed in this style of gameplay. So I wanted to give the perspective of the other side of the coin, and one that I think will match more closely to the experience that is likely to be had by newcomers to fighting games or to this type of fighting game, especially since many in the League community may never have played this kind of fighting game before. So let's go ahead and play it, and then I'll give you some information throughout.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom, executive producer at Project L. And I'm Tony, Project L's technical lead.
Real quick, Tom and Tony Cannon are the ones who, they are founders of the EVO Championship Series, the Super Bowl of fighting games, so to speak, and inventors of GGPO, a specific implementation of rollback netcode for peer-to-peer connections, which is what fighting games thrive on, and is currently becoming more frequently used in new fighting games for a better online experience.
Last time we talked, I let you in on the secret that we're building a fighting game here at Riot. We showed you a brief glimpse of gameplay and said we'd be going dark for a while, but we'd share more when we're ready. Well, a lot's changed since then.
That was a long time ago.
We made some great progress, and while the game is still too far out to commit to a release date, it's been a bit since you heard from us, so I want to bring you up to speed on what we've been working on.
From the beginning, we knew that we wanted to make a 2D fighter set in the universe of Runeterra. But the 2D fighting space is pretty broad. Even from that starting point, there were a ton of different directions we could take the game. After lots of exploration, we're excited to say that we've landed on a direction that we're pretty pumped about. In this quick update, we'll walk you through our high-level approach when it comes to core gameplay, character design, and netcode.
Yep, now they said that the 2D fighting space is pretty broad, and there are a lot of styles of 2D fighting game. The fighting game genre is pretty diverse in terms of gameplay styles, to the extent that there is literally no gameplay style that is universally loved by everyone. Any decision they would have gone with would have appealed to some people and pushed some others away. That's just an unfortunate side effect when you have so many different styles of gameplay within the same genre. Whereas with MOBAs, your skills generally carry over from one MOBA to another. Not always the case with fighting games, especially when you consider subgenres such as 2D and 3D subgenres, and then platform fighters like Smash.
But first, allow me to reintroduce Project L.
Now, I really do like the change in the art style, I must say. Okay, so as you can see, grounded movement, but then there's the assist. And I'm going to go a bit more in depth about that. And then that there looked like an active tag.
Project L will be an assist-based fighter. You'll build and pilot a team of 2 different champs. We feel like this is the right foundation to build a game that rewards strategic team building and on-the-fly decision-making on top of strong fighting fundamentals.
Now, an interesting point, 2v2, that means each player, so it's still only 2 players, but each player controls 2 characters on their team. And they can use assists from the one that's in reserve, and it looks like from earlier you could assist and then tag to the other character, which is very reminiscent of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, as well as something you can do in Power Rangers Battle for the Grid and BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle as well.
Our goal is to build a game that delivers a fast-paced, dynamic combat fantasy while leaving plenty of room for you to be creative and express yourself in game. Like a lot of you out there, we're inspired by the insane outplays, hard reads, and 200 IQ plays behind some of the most iconic moments in fighting game history. The dream for us is to deliver a game that allows you to create new iconic moments for many years to come.
Now, that was a long combo. And that is only scratching the surface, I believe, because a thing about tag fighting games, tag and assist fighting games, is that they tend to inherently have longer strings of combos, longer strings of attacks that can keep you locked down into your guard, and more, as the fighting game community would say, grimy ways to mix up your opponent, or basically open up their defense. And as you see, you get multiple attacks on guard before you even start doing special moves and assists and so on. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. Many in the League community and outside of the fighting game community who this may end up being their first fighting game ever. Something that you need to realize is this game is going to have, while it's going to be flashy and entertaining, when you're playing it, if you don't know how to handle the assist-based pressure and mix-ups, some matches can feel very one-sided. It's going to happen, and expect that you're going to need to do some homework in order to be able to counterplay these things, just because of the nature of tag games with their pressure and combo length and so on. And so when you do get hit too, unless they put some sort of a mechanic to escape combos, whether it be some sort of a combo breaker or a burst or like a tag crash, combos may end up being pretty long and feel relatively single player, as in once you get hit, you can't do much except wait for the opponent to either mess up somewhere in the combo and drop it, or just run the combo to its conclusion. So interaction will end once a combo is started, and it may last from, as we saw from that RA combo just a minute ago, roughly 5 to 7 seconds? I think it was about 5 seconds. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that, because that's something that not many in the FGC will point out. But tag and assist fighting games generally are a bit less new player friendly than 1v1 single combat games with no assists. That's something I definitely wanted to point out.
Now let's talk about controls. I know that a lot of you have strong opinions about mechanical difficulty in fighting games. For Project L, we're embracing the easy to learn, hard to master mentality. So yes, we are making it easier to jump in with a new character and learn their basic kit.
Now, the fighting game community, like you said, has very strong opinions about simplifying the execution or the mechanical prowess you need to just do what you want to do when you want to do it with consistency. Something that I find interesting is that most genres, in order to do your fundamental commands, the inputs are never any more mechanically complex than press a button or key, or combination of two, or direction and one, or direction and a combination of two, sometimes a combination of three, but generally there's no motion inputs. And by motion inputs I mean the historical fighting game quarter circles, half circles, dragon punch, or as some have called it, Z input, or it's more like forward than quarter circle forward, full circles for the big command grabs, and so on. Charge back, hold back or down back for a certain amount of time, and then press forward or up, and the button to do that special. There's been a number of that, and historically for fighting games, that is how you're able to squeeze in a lot more moves onto a limited controllers. With, say 6 to 8 buttons that you can use, or triggers, depending on if you're using a controller, arcade stick, and so on. So by simplifying the controls to be more in keeping with almost every other genre, mechanical skills will carry over better into this game than most traditional fighting games. That's definitely a plus, and I definitely commend them for sticking to that, because that's actually a carryover from the previous game that the developers were making when they were still independent developers. So I think that's going to be a good thing, because that's one of the elements that makes Smash Bros. So popular, is that it's so easy to pick up and play. Yet, if you look at the competitive scene, there's no shortage of depth to the game. And despite what the fighting game community may want to believe, complexity does not equal depth. They are not one and the same. There are multiple levels of depth and sources of depth, such as player interactions, mind games, strategy, counterplay, things that exist in almost every other competitive game that are much easier to pick up and play than most traditional fighting games. So this game, I think, is going in the right direction regarding that. Almost anybody can pick up and play, even on a keyboard, and the depth will come from other elements of fighting games.
That said, we absolutely believe in rewarding the time you spend going deep on a character and providing opportunities for you to showcase your high-end mastery. One of the delights of fighting games is seeing top players move and fight in a way that's inspiring and distinct from lesser skilled players. We want to set that aspirational summit and build a steadily increasing difficulty curve to get you there.
Very smart. Easy to learn, difficult to master. That way the game will appeal to casual players. The gameplay itself will appeal to casual players, but there will be plenty of depth to dig into for players who want to get competitive and increase their skills to compete at a higher level. Best of both worlds. You know, it's not going to be, from the looks of it, not going to be hard to get into, even more difficult to learn, to master. So, kudos for that, for sure.
This isn't about building a game where new players have a chance to be the pros. It's about unlocking the fun at all skill levels.
Exactly. A video game, first and foremost, should be fun. The competitive scene of anything, any hobby, any sport, any game, makes up roughly 20% of the total audience. So a vast gap between the competitive minority and the casual majority. So you don't want to ignore either, but obviously the people who are going to be competitive are going to be severely outnumbered by people who just want to have fun at a low level. Fighting games historically have been kind of difficult to have fun with at a low level to a point, especially when playing against someone more skilled than you. They tend to be pretty one-sided. So this game wants to unlock the fun at all skill levels. Again, akin to games like Smash Bros., which have far surpassed pretty much every traditional fighting game in terms of, broad appeal. So definitely nice to see someone with a huge recognizable IP implementing that in a more traditional fighting game.
Character design, of course, plays a huge role in this. Characters, our goal is to deliver on the iconic moves that League champions are known for, but adapted to work in a fighting game. We want our champs to have
Very
powerful,
nice
flexible
redesigns
kits that give you the freedom to play your character your way. As an example, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Echo, re-envisioned for Project L. Echo is a punk genius. He's a brilliant inventor who, through time manipulation, can rewind his own mistakes and stay one step ahead of his opponent. The centerpiece of Echo's kit is his Chrono Strike, the forward-moving slash that's a pretty good poke and a combo ender. When Echo slashes with Chrono Strike, he generates an after image that he can rewind back to any time in the next few seconds.
Pretty interesting mechanic.
You can use the rewind to
Kind of
double down
reminiscent
on
of
your first
Tracer
slash
from
with
Overwatch,
a
being able to
different choice
rewind.
and branch into a high committal launcher. Echo works just fine as a mid-range zoner, but he really comes online when you take full advantage of the rewind ability.
See, if you look at that, he's able to teleport side to side because of rewinding. You can get very creative with it. And like I said, that combined with assists is going to be some interesting and grimy mix-ups. Those who are already familiar with tag and assist fighters are going to love that. However, newcomers will probably find that kind of oppressive. So just keep your expectations realistic on that if you're completely new to fighting games, and expect to see some pretty crazy stuff if you ever get matched up against someone at a higher skill level than you. But if you are the kind who likes to dig into that stuff, then there's going to be a lot of creativity you can get into. So best of both. Like I said, more approachable, but still a lot of depth.
He can vary the timing of the rewind to mix up his opponent, recover for assist attacks made by his teammates.
I was seeing some
And
ground
on the right
bounces in the
hand,
combos.
Rewind can also be a strong combo extender.
Right there.
And then there's Time Winder, Echo's Time Grenade. Time Winder works great for basic zoning and combos. The real payoff comes when you're able to throw Time Winder from range, giving it a chance to charge up and explode into a time distortion field that slows Echo's opponents for the next few seconds of the match. For both of these moves,
Pretty
our
interesting
approach is to give
mechanic.
you a tool with a clear primary role with lots of potential for extra utility when you use it in the right situation.
And he can smack it like he's hitting it with a baseball bat, looking like Lethal League up in here. I kind of like that, honestly. It'll allow you to manipulate it in some interesting ways for some creative trajectories.
Now, while gameplay is obviously super important, high-quality netcode is essential for any great fighting game. So this is an area where we're investing big.
Yeah, fighting games historically have been kind of behind the times in terms of online play, mostly because the fighting game community has historically treated offline competitive play as the primary importance, and treating online play as being less legitimate and therefore less important. And so the developers never really gave online play all that much attention and development time and budget. So this is a case where an outside company like Riot, who already has a highly successful online competitive game in which the online play is treated as completely legitimate, is actually a good thing. Could shake things up, because while more developers are getting on the bus regarding rollback netcode, as they're going to explain, they're actually going to take that to another level, being as they're kind of pioneers in that for fighting games anyway. I'm definitely hoping to see online play be treated more as legitimate in this game than in most fighting games, especially with, the current state of the world. We can't all go to the local events, and online is more important than ever.
I'm going to turn it over to Tony, and he'll walk you through some of our networking foundations.
Netcode has been a top of mind topic in the FGC for the past year, especially since we haven't been able to gather for live events. For Project L, we've designed our entire networking stack to deliver the same highly responsive gameplay that you'd get playing offline. Of course, this starts by using rollback networking at the core. Rollback does a great job of maintaining a consistent low input delay across a wide range of pings. We've also developed a new networking model that enhances the benefits of rollback with core technology developed by other games at Riot.
Relay
We'll
servers.
route network traffic between players through Riot Direct, our internal network already being used to minimize latency in League of Legends and Valorant. We're also actively managing a player's connection to their opponent to ensure a consistent, fair play experience. If their connection is laggy or drops packets, their experience will suffer, but yours won't.
That's a very nice innovation, because generally with fighting games, even with rollback netcode, if one person fall behind because of poor connection, it's the person who's ahead that has to roll back to match the one who's behind. In which case, you'll see those teleports where the opponent rolls back to the proper state, and that generally gives the person with the worst connection sort of an advantage, especially if they're accustomed to playing under those conditions. So this will reverse that, flip the roles. The one with the worst connection will experience the worst experience, as it should be, really. Just got to be fair here. If you put in the resources to having good connection, then you should have a good experience.
And if someone rage quits in the middle of a match, our netcode will determine who should win and who should be penalized.
Extremely important. Not every fighting game has that, so it should be just stock standard, and it is in most games. You plug, you unplug your internet, or you close out the game in the middle of a match. The other person should get their points. Rank points or what have you, rewards. That's just, objectively how it should be.
We're taking netplay very seriously for Project L. It's the primary way that we playtest the game internally, and we're working every day to make sure it's in top shape for the eventual release.
We hope you enjoyed this sneak peek at Project L. Before we go, I want to remind you that our game is still in R&D. We're happy with how core combat is shaping up, but there's still a ton of work to do. Thanks so much for your patience while we take our time to make sure that we get this right. So that's all for now. Last time we spoke, Project L went dark afterwards, but this time we'll do our best to keep you in touch when we have major news to share. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And that's that. So, nice bit of information there. like I said, they're doing some pretty nice things regarding innovating fighting games and bringing it into the modern era of video games in and of itself. Historically, fighting games have kind of existed in a vacuum with a very niche but dedicated community. This game might be a good shakeup in bringing the genre to a bit more into the mainstream, and while some people may have an adverse reaction to that, the thing is, not every game has to be catered to the hardcore niche. You need some games with high-profile intellectual property to reach a broader audience, because a rising tide lifts all boats. If you have a few flagship games for the genre that actually have positive optics with the general public, a portion of the new blood that comes in for those games will get curious about the more niche or underground titles in the genre. That happens with every single genre that hits some form of mass popularity. And then a portion of those curious people may find something in the more niche space that they actually like and will stick with. And that's more people checking out the niche titles than would have otherwise. So it's a win-win no matter what. Even if you're a hardcore fighting game veteran and this just isn't for you, that's okay. I know myself, I may not enjoy this as much as many others in the fighting game community because I prefer single combat. No assists, no tagging. I like 1v1. It's just less to keep track of during the round and puts more emphasis on decision making and makes it a bit more, of a controlled environment. And that's just my personal taste. I've never been a huge fan of tag and assist fighting games. Virtua Fighter would be my favorite fighting game right now, and it's more in the 3D sub-genre space, and it's single combat. A lot of fast-paced decisions, short combos, high damage output, so the combos don't need to be long, ring outs, and short round timers, so you can win off of your strong offense, or you can win off of defense. Tag fighters tend to be more geared towards offense, and mixing up your opponent, rather than, holding a defense for too long. The longer you're defending, the more opportunities your opponent has to try and open up your defense. So, if you like more aggressive styles of games, and you want something with easier execution, more akin to Smash Brothers and almost every genre, like MOBAs and shooters and so on, this is definitely a game for you. Just keep in mind that if you're not accustomed to tag and assist fighting games, there will be long periods of time where you're locked down. There may be long periods of time where you're stuck in a combo without any way to escape it. And by long, I mean relatively long compared to other things you may be experienced with. And so on, so just keep your expectations realistic. Tag fighting games are not for everyone. I've already seen plenty of reactions online of people who were said, as soon as they said assist, I'm out. It's just not for everyone. And like I said, the fighting game genre is just so diverse, there's no gameplay style they could have went with that would please everyone. So just expect a more aggressive and mix-up heavy experience with a lot of grimy stuff to exploit and so on. But hey, if you like that kind of stuff, more power to you. This game is most likely going to be free to play anyway, and it'll be easy to get into and play at all skill levels. So I'm even going to give it a try, even though I'm not a fan of tag games. I definitely like what they're doing with the online play, with the gameplay design, in terms of making it easy to get into, single button specials and so on, but keeping depth in other matters. And I definitely hope more fighting game developers do that. I'm honestly just a little disappointed because the game they were working on before was single combat, one character each, but hey, what can you do? Not everything's for everyone. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this content. Feel free to open up some discussion in the comments. Are you looking forward to this game? Do you like assist-based tag combat? Do you wish this was 1v1 single combat? Or do you wish this was something altogether? Something different altogether, I should say. Let me know, and I'll reply to as many comments as I can. This was just something new, a little discussion video. Hope you enjoy, and I'll be doing something more like this in the future. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.
mighty. Through the smiles and the frowns, we are mighty. Come around, we get down with the sound, cause you can't keep a good kid down. Through the fire, the turmoil, the trouble, I've climbed to the highest of heights, came through the rubble, and I didn't have the slightest idea of who to run.